I'm gonna make this a video too. This is a thing I gotta talk about. So there are some people. I'm not attaching fan art to this one because it's very, very spur of the moment. But there are people on the internet who spend their time not wondering how they can better make the world a more functional and livable place for their fellow man. They instead like making themselves sound superior to other people. And this is a problem that happens on every side of the political spectrum. It doesn't matter where you are. It's a huge issue that I'm tired of seeing. And online communities are rife with this everywhere. And it's not just politics. It's not just that. This desperate need for an us versus them delineation where the us is some superior ubermensch of some kind. Think about it. You're not a gamer. I'm a true gamer. I put in X amount of hours into my video games versus the person who's working 2 jobs and plays video games for a couple hours a day to take the edge off. And the most they might be able to do is mobile games because they're doing it while laying in bed because their back hurts. That's a gamer. They're spending their time playing video games because gamer as a term ceased being useful once games became mainstream. We don't call people who read a lot of books bookies or bookworms. Because it doesn't mean anything. Rather, actually, we do use that term, but that term means somebody who consumes more of that content than others, as opposed to somebody who's truly a book enjoyer. We don't do this stupid true book enjoyers thing. So you don't have an ancient tomb, you're not a Magic player. I have 2 ancient tombs because they were both sent to me by Jet. Like, you're not a real trans person if you don't take HRT. What if the person can't afford it? What if they're not in a place that's safe to actually take HRT? Are they not a true trans then because of that? Somebody's not a true gamer because they can't put as many hours into a video game as you? Like, I hate to be a class reductionist saying that there's only one class of people right now that you need to worry about, and it's working class people, but I'm willing to stand by that opinion when it's the difference between somebody coming in and being a vegan, but being such an outspoken vegan that they have specific insulting language that they use for non-vegans. When, again, we should be trying to make this world a better and more functional place for all working class people who exist in it, for all people who are functioning in it. I'm not going to call the person who just got off work and desperately wants some protein shoved in their gullet for survival's sake. I'm not going to call that person any type of disparaging word because of the protein they chose to consume. Like, no. That's unnecessary, and all it does is further divide us on arbitrary lines that don't really matter. At the end of the day, we are all people who are suffering through a world that is not made for us. Not really. We are all together living in a world that is made to serve corporate interest. All of us, from top to bottom. Also, Rabbit Hide, thank you for the follow. Every single one of us is living in a world that some CEO decided was good for the purpose of maximizing profits. It is present in our hobbies. It is present in the things we love, that are passions as opposed to that. Like, it is present in everything from top to bottom. It is present in your food. It is present in your entertainment. It is present in the job market that is available for you. There are advertising firms that are built on the premise of selling you a product. And that is all they do. 24/7. Their job is to compile data to try to figure out how to extract as much wealth out of you, a working class person, as possible. And somehow, instead of focusing on trying to pull together resources or pull together, camaraderie, we instead focus on the myriad of ways in which we are different. We focus on that more than anything. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating. You get people who are part of proselytizing religions who try to focus on how they are juxtaposed against the world, this superiority and persecution complex that gets baked into their religiosity. And then on the other end, you get some atheists that think that merely getting what they feel to be the correct answer on the God question makes them some kind of intellectual. I know what that feeling is because I had that feeling. I was that atheist who figured out what my identity was, and suddenly I thought I was superior mentally to all the people around me that were theists, not realizing that there's plenty of reasons. There's plenty of reasons for every single person to have a belief that they do, whether good or bad, but people do have their reasons for it. That's why I focused my channel not on disproving God's existence like it was in the very first, 3 months of the channel. It instead focused more on trying to minimize harm that was caused by theism. And then, of course, because that theism bled so far into politics, the channel also started to shift more and more into talking about politics. And at some point, I got so burnt out about it that I started making content that was separate to that content that made me more happy, and that's where I've been. And it's why content's been more sparse on this channel. It's why the flavor of the content's been the way it is. But it all boils down to that same shit. People focusing so hard on the ways that they are different or better or what have you to their fellow man when you're not. Yeah, you may have gotten the God question right, but the person that's there fixing your plumbing definitely knows more about their trade skill than you. And that matters just as much because you need them for that reason, just as much as you feel they need you to tell them God's not real.jpg. And everybody is guilty of it. I've done it several times. Everybody's done it. We're all guilty of this gatekeeping, and there are people who believe that that gatekeeping is good, that gatekeeping people out of, like, a fandom is a good thing. Oh, we should be gatekeeping the wrong types of people out of the Sonic fandom so that we don't get different releases that are catered to them instead of us. No, that's not how that works. Your gatekeeping isn't going to prevent a corporate entity that does not know nor care about you from making a product you don't like. 60-card players in Magic the Gathering trying to gatekeep the game away from Commander players is stupid. And likewise, Commander players who have come into the game and try to gatekeep 60-card competitive players from a game that they have been enjoying and watching wane for several years is equally stupid. Sonic fans who are fans of the Adventure era and really don't like the Pontac and Graph era of Sonic the Hedgehog and try to gatekeep fans who enjoy that style of writing, no. Criticize the product, but don't criticize the people who enjoy the product. You can say, oh yeah, your taste is bad, but don't be like, you're not a real fan if. That's stupid. They're a real fan of the thing. It may not be the particular flavor of the thing you enjoy, but they're still a fan. They like chicken tenders. You like chicken tenders. They're not a true fan of chicken tenders unless they like specifically double-battered crispy chicken tenders with panko mixed in and oregano sprinkled on top. If they don't like that particular kind of chicken tender, they're not a real chicken tender fan. You know how stupid that sounds? For those of you familiar with No True Scotsman fallacy, of course it sounds stupid, because it is. It is a stupid thing to get hung up about. And yet somehow that exact flavor of stupid thing is something that people focus on everywhere. We focus it on our dietary, sometimes restrictions. There are people who literally cannot eat without having meat as a protein because their body cannot digest vegetable protein. I have a couple friends who have conditions that make that happen, and there are people who can't consume certain meats for other dietary reasons. People with lupus have trouble with certain types of meats. And these are all valid. But instead of focusing on that, the ways in which everybody is valid in their own personal struggle, we get people who go, you're not a real man if you're not eating real meat. Or we get people who say, you're a carnist for consuming a burger. I have to find a specific term to describe you for some reason. It makes me feel better to be able to delineate myself from you. I am different than you for this reason. It's stupid. In a world where we should be focusing more on protecting each other, as trans rights are being eroded, as video game companies are trying to siphon every bit of money they can out of us with microtransactions, in a world where a fucking corporate CEO at a Wendy's is trying to add surge pricing to affordable food that has become increasingly less affordable over time, in that world, that is somehow the world that we are fighting each other in, instead of the people who are actively spending their time making our lives worse? That's the world? That's the one? And, you know, I know the types of people who are going to tell me I'm wrong that are going to be in the comment section. And I'm ready for just about every one of them, for the most part. I know what I'm getting into making a video like this, but I've been on the internet long enough to deal with knowing how to ignore people on the internet. That in a world where the corpus is becoming more and more of an actual thing. Yep. Emma says, I don't join fandoms for the explicit reason of the them versus us mentality, which then makes me feel like I'm missing out on the community. But the thing is, nobody joins a fandom. That's the other thing. Nobody joins a fandom. You're a person who enjoys a thing, and therefore you are part of the fandom. You may not be part of the public fandom, but you are a person who enjoys that thing, and therefore you're as much a part of it as anything else. You're just not a vocal part of it. It's like... anybody remember when Undertale got super popular? And there were people who legitimately would not touch it because of the fandom that surrounded it? And they did that with all kinds of things. Steven Universe is another example where, like, people go, oh, I'd like to watch Steven Universe, but the fandom ruined it for me. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. A fandom cannot ruin a thing for you. You accepted that the words that people on the internet were saying about the thing that you wanted to engage in was more important than your potential enjoyment of the thing. You did that. You accepted that for you. And then you made a judgment call based on that fandom with that information that, again, you chose to process that way. It's very easy to not engage in fandom. It's very easy to not engage in the us versus them stuff. Now, it may not be easy to not think about it. A lot of us are programmed with that us versus them stuff, and it's very hard to deprogram that. It is very hard to deprogram that. And I sympathize with people who feel like they can't deprogram themselves from that kind of thinking. So the problem is fandom ruin content on the regular? No, it doesn't. The fandom doesn't change the content. The content happens irrespective of the fandom. The fandom for anything grows around the content. It always has been the case. New Age Star Wars fans aren't ruining Star Wars for old age Star Wars fans. God, that sucks. I hate when people use my killing of an NPC as a way to kill me. It's a perfectly viable strategy, though. So the content made the fandom, none of the Undertale AUs changed the game. No, it didn't. Said sometimes the fandom influences the content, never in a way that matters. So, like, here's the thing. What happens is somebody goes, well, I don't want to watch this thing because the fandom ruined it for me. It's never, I've never seen it be fans did a thing that then changed the content. It's always fans made fan art of a thing that I didn't like. Fans made arguments about a thing that I didn't like. Fans made this creative endeavor about a thing and I didn't like how it worked. That is how it's always been on the internet. I have very rarely ever heard a salient critique of anything that began with the fandom ruined something for me. Not once. And that us versus them mentality is brain-breakingly stupid. And again, I get it. You can't stop thinking it. Not cognizantly. It's something that a lot of us have had deeply programmed into us, especially those of us who used to be Christians, who had the whole narrative of, you know, juxtaposing ourselves against the world and being separate from the world and making the way that we walked in life make us look different than everybody else so people would want to be us. Or people who grew up in suburban America where, like, keeping up with the Joneses is such an important thing for them. It's very hard to deprogram yourself from that. I get that. So Run of the Night says review bombing is a thing. Yeah, it is. It doesn't change the content. The review bombing happens after the content's made. Like, I'm sorry. Fandom does not ruin content for you. You ruin content for you. Lunar Muse, thank you for the gifted sub. Look, I hate a lot of various aspects of the Sonic fandom, of the Magic fandom, of the Dragon Ball fandom, of the various anime fandoms, especially various anime fandoms, but I still enjoy all those things. Because I don't let the words on the internet of those people color my opinion of that content. So the Jesus fandom kind of made it hard to escape that mentality. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. There is very little, if any, difference between the different types of Christian and fandoms. It operates exactly the same way. It operates the same way. Said, does bondage ruin? I think we have a lot of bonding to do. Said there's second seasons and the fandom often has an impact on them. An impact on it, sure, but again, if you can name... So here's the thing. Every single time that happens, somebody has a vague example of it and does not go, okay, so the people who like this thing made it worse and made it worse because... I'm sorry, fandom doesn't ruin fucking shit for you. You choose to engage with a thing or you don't, and your enjoyment of the thing should exist irrespective of that fandom. I said, why would you fuck shit? Two Girls, One Cup says that apparently it's very enjoyable for some people. I still hold that scat play is the one kink that I'm allowed to kink shame about. It's also oftentimes that something is not as enjoyable by the mainstream and would not receive more content if not for the fandom around it. In which case, you had that first season and that never got changed by that fandom. Fandom doesn't ruin fucking shit. Jesus Christ. Said, yeah, I think scat is the kink that breaks the rules. It is. Because it's the kink that, you know, it's the kink that can get you killed. Sepsis is a bitch. I guess a few kinks can get you killed. Auto asphyxiation can, if you're not careful. I have either no intention of doing so. I said, if you're a bottom feeder, then yes. Did I just recover from sepsis? It's not fun. Oh, I imagine so. I imagine it's not fun. There are a bunch of NPCs here. Are these all just NPCs? Alright. My guy, you came to a shotgun fight with an SMG. What is wrong with you? So I hear a lot of things about it. Is there must be something that... Jesus Christ. Digi says, what's the topic right now? Right now, I'm talking about us versus them mentalities and how they're harmful. And they prevent us from actually engaging in real progress. because we focus so much on the ways in which we're different instead of the ways in which we're similar or going through similar struggles. Wow, that was a good shot. I can't even complain about that. Ha ha. But yeah, no, I guess the crux of this for me is anytime that you spend, anybody who's spent enough time on the internet has seen that it is algorithmically now a place that breeds conflict. It is hard enough right now to come together on similar issues because content as it is built on people fighting each other. It is built on conflict. We know that things like Twitter's algorithm and Facebook's algorithm all reward engagement. And what engages more than conflict? YouTube's algorithm rewards engagement as well. And what rewards engagement more than conflict? Emily says, you ban everyone who disagrees with you. So much for being against the us versus them mentality. My good bitch, how did everything I said in here not click to you? You are the reason this video was made in the first place. I didn't ban you, Amelia. I put you in timeout like the child you're acting like. I asked you not to use a name to refer to a group of people who are just trying to live their life just completely averagely. And instead, you insisted on using it again, and also decided to come into my chat and say that you don't care when those people have to spend more money to live. My disagreement is with the entire ethos of how you are operating. But I did not ban you. You never got banned. For the premise of what you're saying to work, I would have had to have banned you, and I didn't do that. I put you in timeout, so I didn't have to deal with your shit. Now that you're out of timeout, and I'm having to deal with your shit, I see that you haven't improved. And I said, oh, so where that's where the Carnist things happened. Yep, yeah, that's where the Carnist thing came in. Yeah, if you were banned from my chat, you wouldn't be able to talk at all. Instead of using this time to self-reflect at all, on the behavior that led to you getting taken out of the chat for 30 minutes, you decided to come back with more. I feel as though that type of individual, the person who does that, does not deserve to be part of a community until that behavior improves. I feel like for anybody to be part of an online community, they do need to have some level of respect for the other people in that community. And if you have chosen to not have respect for the people in my community, then I will choose to remove you from my community. And again, I had not quite done that yet. This latent Christianity bullshit that lets you do the us versus them stuff with, again, 90% of the US population. For no good reason. I just don't understand it. So they just want to circle jerk their ego, basically? I don't know if that's the case. I wouldn't assume that. I will make that assumption about large groups, but when it comes to an individual person, I'm not in their head. Jatsa says, you just don't get it, Cirrus. You're a Carnist. The veggie fandom. Is this the true manifestation of the VeggieTales fandom? Joined 3 days ago, according to your profile. Neat. Gotta love American exceptionalism. Jeez. Anyway, that's it for that ramp. That ramp? I'm thinking too much of Magic the Gathering. That ramp. That rant. Again, all I ask of anybody is to think about the people around you and not literally tell the leftist content creator that you don't care about other people's class struggles. I don't know, maybe that feels like a bit of a faux pas. Feels like a bit of a faux pas to me, I don't know. Anyway. Insert end of video tagline here. That's it for me. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Blitzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.